All right. So, all right. So we're live again. We're here for a new week, and I look a little different right now, and I apologize about that. But one, I'm on a completely new computer, and I'm gonna start having to get used to that. And two, this light is super bright today, but I think that'll be fine. I guess you guys would prefer a little bit too bright versus not bright enough. So, first, let me just sort of share this link with the Facebook group so that you guys are aware. And then we'll get started. Uh, let's see. Go. And we are live now. Okay. Okay. So the beautiful thing is, hey Darren, good to see you on here, man. Um, what's good? I'm very good. Good to see you here. Let us know where you're from, man. Well, this computer's a lot faster than the old one. I can tell you that much. I've got a lot of stuff open, and this thing has no lag whatsoever. I'm excited. I'm excited. All right, so I'm going to wait a few minutes for people to pop in. Just a few days until Christmas here. Belarus in Eastern Europe. Wow, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So, what's the weather like and things like in Belarus? Oh man, 3:50 in the morning. Lot of dedication. I'm glad. That's negative 14 Celsius. I would guess, right? So that's what. Yeah, it's like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Man, that's pretty rough. I think in Chicago it is currently negative 2 degrees Celsius in your terms. So it's about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. But man, this should be exciting. So it's been 2 minutes and 45 seconds a lap. Uh, I'm gonna start talking at 5 minutes in, so then you don't have to wait too much longer here. Um, but and whoever just hopped in, be sure to say hi, tell us where you're from. So I've got three questions that I'm going to be answering. Um, hey, Paul, good to see you on here, man. And Paul is one of our tribe members, and I'm going to be interviewing him in the next few weeks. Okay. So let me get these questions up so I can see them. Okay. So I'm going to type them out in the chat. Pros, cons of running a 24-hour call center. So this is extremely relevant to you, Paul, versus limited hours. That's one. Two is difficulties dealing with clients in different time zones. And three is how do you keep track of or trust remote workers? So, boom. And Paul, just so you know, my wife actually came up with the question. So I'm telling you, it really it's a crazy coincidence that you happen to be here. Now I'm going to be sipping this. This is still water, natural spring water. So don't think I'm some type of alcoholic with a fifth of vodka that I'm just taking down during the call. It's from Philanthropy. That's how you say it. Philanthropy, Wales. So it's high quality stuff. I love drinking it, but it's very weird, like driving. Okay, so it said my connection is unstable. Could either of you verify whether or not you can still hear me and, whether you can still hear me and see me? If you can, I did cut off for a bit. Okay, so you can see me now, though, Darren? Okay. So did you hear my story about the water? I guess it's not a big thing. Whatever. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so no, it's water. I'm telling you. Uh, uh, okay, so again, the main premise of these calls is that I have a few questions that I'm prepared to answer going into it. But for any of you that might have questions as I'm talking, I will prioritize answering those questions. So, Darren, I'm glad you're here. You seem pumped up. Feel free to ask whatever questions you want. None are too crazy or too, dumb. There's no dumb question. There's no simple question. Paul, I know you're turning into a veteran. You're going faster than I did, but you still might have some questions, and I'm happy to answer. I'm here. So whatever you got, shoot them at me. Uh, so because you guys haven't asked anything yet, I'm going to start off with one. What are the pros and cons of running a 24-hour call center versus limited hours? And I'm going to start time stamping when I ask these questions in the chat. So that way I can reference it. That way I can reference it when I do descriptions in the videos later. Just telling you guys how I work. Okay, so pros and cons of running a 24-hour call center versus limited hours. Now, Paul, since you're here, feel free to correct me on some of this. So one thing that I used to say a tremendous amount is that, and I always believed it to the end of time. The biggest con when it comes to being 24/7 is that during your coverage hours, that is those are the times where if there's some type of fire that needs to be put out, it can be sometimes pretty urgent during your coverage hours. For instance, if the phone system's down, for 20 minutes or something. Hey, Lucky found it for you. How you doing, buddy? If the phone system's down, that's usually the thing that gets people. If I don't know, if there's some client that somehow the forwarding doesn't work anymore, that's usually not something that has to be handled at midnight, but maybe sometimes on the weekends if they get a lot of calls, it can be. And there's just people that are working during that time, so things could happen. That's the point. And so when you have coverage hours, once you are like, let's say, your coverage hours are till 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 8 p.m. Outside of 8 p.m., you can just sort of at least chill out until the next morning, right? You don't have to think about it. It's not in your mind. But when you're 24/7, the system, the business is always happening. It's always running. You're always serving clients at all times. And so that's it can be a little bit nerve-wracking depending on, how your clients are and how you're serving those clients. And that's what I would say the biggest con. The second largest con is that in 95% of cases, you're not getting as many calls during the after hours as you are during business hours. And so when you're starting off, it can be a bit more difficult to ramp up with a smaller budget because you have to staff more people starting off, right? But if you're able to get through that, then fantastic. Because the pros are that you open yourself up to any industry, right? There's certain industries that you literally can't serve if you're not 24/7. There's certain types of companies that might want to use you, but if you don't have the coverage out they're looking for, they're not going to use you. So you open yourself up. Now, one thing that, and I won't talk too much about this, but Paul's been, positioning himself in a way, and he had people reaching out to him, which is very nice. And so I would consider that to be another pro. If you can, get the economic down, right? Um, then it can happen pretty well. And you know what? I just realized something. The spreadsheet calculator right now doesn't account for 24/7 operation. And so I think I'm going to create a new version of the spreadsheet calculator that accounts for if you want to run a 24/7 operation. I think that would be very helpful. So I'm going to do that. And so that way you can sort of do it. So Paul just says you have to treat it as two different businesses in pipeline. Yeah, so that makes sense. I get the clients that have an emphasis on standard business hours, and then the client that have an emphasis on maybe not necessarily mostly after hour calls, but certainly a desire to have after hours covered. And because they tend to be slightly different types of companies, you can sort of approach it differently. But for those of you in the tribe, and especially when we do the interview, Paul, we'll definitely go over that. So I think that's, I think if you're able to get over the hump of staffing more people when you're getting started, and you're able to sort of figure out the economics on it. Hey, Bill, good to see you in here, man. If you're able to figure out the economics of it going forward, which really shouldn't be all that difficult, and you get a sort of a client roster as you grow that enables you to continue offering that, then great. Vicky actually sort of tried to go 24/7 for a little while, and then we scaled back on it. So there's that. But if you do it the way Paul's doing it, you'll be good. Okay. So I got my puppy over here. Hoping he doesn't bark, but whatever. We're pretty laid back over here. And Bill, I had a great trip, man. It was great. It was great. It was a late 5-year anniversary trip, so it was much needed. And frankly, I want to go back. It's colder for Darren than it is here, but it's certainly colder than comfort for me. So yeah. So that's question number one. Do any of you guys have any questions in between that I can answer before I go on to the second question? I'll have another sip of my actual still water from Llanfair, Wales, from the springs of Llanfair. Okay. Okay. So Darren had a question. Definitely want to get on board. You guys just found your page. Oh, welcome, man. Good to see you. The only question I have is how to get a client. So in the paid program, we cover marketing. We touch on all kinds of different methods that you can use, and if you try to pay attention to or find the interviews with call center cast students, because all 4 of them that I've interviewed, I think it's 4, at least all 3 of them. I think it's 4 though, but there's either 3 or 4 posted interviews. All of them had slightly different ways in which they landed clients. And so the way that you figure out how to get clients within the program is, Paul, thanks for telling me it's 3. How you get clients after, getting everything set up for this business is you get a sense of what the options are. Everyone tends to try a couple different methods that work best for them. And the ones that seem to have the most traction, you stick to that and, optimize that and get some type of strong pipeline going, consistently pounding that method. And once that method has proven to, be something that not only you can do consistently and with confidence of eventually landing clients, you got to get it to the point where you can train someone else to do it. And so when you train someone else to do it, that pipeline and that avenue of marketing is now satisfied, and then you can start to move on to the next one. Okay. Um, oh, okay. So you must be really new. So Dan, I'll send you a link right now. CenterCash.com/home. And there's also, if you just go to callcentercash.com, there is the free 4-day email course, which you can check out if you'd like. So yeah, that's how, I used to say exactly what I did to get clients, and I do cover that in the course. But now I try to say, you know what, there's all kinds of ways to get clients, because the reality is that a strong percentage of every business on the planet need people to answer the phone. And because there's just such a wide market of people that need people to answer the phone, there's so many different ways in which they can be reached. So any type of method that is, tailored towards reaching out to business owners to try to sell them a business service, it's going to be a viable method. Okay, so that hopefully answered that question. I know it's sort of vague, but marketing is just way too broad of a subject to say this is how you do it. Okay, so the second question, and if you guys have any others, feel free to ask. Oh, Bill asked, did you pay $5.9 immediately, weekly, or after your first month? So with $5.9, you have to pay up front. And I think that's actually the case for the majority of the phone systems. I can't think of any that, at least not right now, that you get a trial on. There might have been one or two, but I really can't remember right now. Whoever just hopped in, feel free to say hi. Tell us where you're from if it's your first time. But yeah, so Bill, $5.9 you pay, you pay up front. And after you pay them, they configure your account. And then once it's configured, you can, sort of get everything up and running, start serving clients. So it is something that you have to consider and think about when you're getting going. Okay. Now the nice thing, Bill, is again, specifically $5.9 has a large implementation fee, $3,500 and up. Paul, back when you joined, it was $2,500, but it actually went up to $3,500 as a minimum now. And so if you're a call center cash student in the paid program, that implementation fee is waived, and so you don't have to pay that anymore. But you still have to pay the first month of service up front when you sign the contract. Okay. So second question is difficulties dealing with clients in different time zones. Hey, whoever hopped in, feel free to say hi. Let us know where you are from. Question 2 at 18 minutes in. Okay. So difficulty dealing with clients in different time zones. What I'll say right now is there really isn't much difficulty at all in terms of dealing with clients in different time zones, especially anywhere near your home country, right? In the U.S., we're generally in 4 different time zones, and then of course there's Hawaii. And so when we started, we just made sure that we covered the business hours of those 4 time zones. So 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern covers those 4 time zones from 8 to 5. So, when it's 8 p.m. Eastern, it's 5 p.m. Pacific, and, 8 a.m. Eastern is the start time. So all 4 of those time zones are covered. Okay. And so in terms of dealing with them, Bill, I answer that in just a second. In terms of dealing with clients, I haven't noticed any difference whatsoever. Every now and then you get people from like Iceland. We actually did have an Icelandic client, which is, I don't know why I'm randomly saying that, but I meant to say Ireland. So Europe, we had a few in like South Africa. I can't think of any outside of South Africa. We certainly had a lot of Australian clients. We had some Latin American clients, maybe a few in Mexico. And so it was all across the globe. And frankly, they know they're dealing with an American company, and so they reach out to us based off of when our business hours are and sort of, work around what we're doing. And frankly, when they are using us as internationally based companies, they're using us because they themselves probably have US based clients. And so they're making it more convenient for them to be able to answer the call when it's not like their time zone. So they don't have to be up in the middle of the night. They just let us take the call during our traditional business hours, general business hours. So, it's more that they're dealing with trying to capture US clients than it is us dealing with them being international. Okay. Okay, so Bill asked, when it comes down to Eastern European agents, how reliable are you? Well, I can tell you that I would say they're extremely reliable. When it comes to any group of people that are hired, there's always going to be some people that don't quite fit the bill in terms of performance. But in terms of reliability, I have really not seen. I can't say I've consistently seen anything better than out of Eastern Europe. And part of the reason for that is that Eastern European, Philippines, they have incredible talent over there, but their infrastructure is sort of tough. And so, with no fault of their own, sometimes they're not able to be as reliable as they want to unless they're in like really, really good infrastructure areas within, the island. But Eastern Europe, like pretty much the whole country, like, most of the people that we source through our staffing company have the same or close to the same internet speed as myself. And I have gig speed internet in Chicago. Um, it's a landlocked country. You're not dealing with tropical storms. And again, we're paying them what is a really solid wage there. And so when you hire people in the US and you're paying them $10 to $15 an hour, that's considered a really low wage here. I mean, it's a fact of the matter. People are fine with it. They like working at home. It's a pretty decently easy job, especially when you get to about $15 an hour. There's a lot of people that are happy with it in the US, but that have more to do with, issues rather than it being a really good wage. But in Eastern Europe, you're gravy when you're making what we're paying. It feels more like a $20 an hour salary in terms of USD. And if you're not in a high cost of living area, so you're making $20 an hour, you're doing pretty decent. So because of that, the caliber of person you get is different, right? Literally the most recent person we hired has a master's degree, and this is like a career paying job for them. So when the caliber is different, that comes with greater reliability and things of that sort. So not to spend too much time on Eastern Europeans, but we've had great experiences. Would they be trained prior to getting hired? We train them in general in terms of call center stuff, but the majority of training that needs to happen is going to be specific to your company. Okay, Jasmine. Hope that helped, Bill. Jasmine, welcome. Tell us where you're from if you don't mind. Jasmine asked, how do you deal with chargeback from unhappy clients? Well, frankly, we don't. It just doesn't happen. I think by the time I saw we were dealing with thousands of transactions a month, and out of 5 figures worth of transactions, multiple 5 figures worth of transactions, we might have gotten 20 disputes. I don't know, like something that I don't notice at all. Oh, hey, Jasmine, California. Maybe you were here a few weeks ago. So yeah, we've gotten we haven't, disputes aren't going to be the type of thing, or chargeback aren't going to be something that impacts your company. If it does impact your company, then you need to take a very, very hard look at how you're running your company, because the reality is that every now and then you get people that don't pay, right? They'll finish the trial and then it's tough to get them to get over to a paid client, or they'll pay you for a few months, and then suddenly they're not able to keep up with the invoices anymore. That happens sometimes, but still not enough to impact the business. But in terms of chargeback, like people that you're charging and then the chargeback is really not a thing. The type of business owner that is committed enough to their business to actually have people answering the phone from a third-party service is not usually the type of business owner that wants to burn bridges by charging back when we're providing such clearly valuable and tangible value within the service that they're being provided. So Paul, he hasn't had one charge back, and he has a bunch of clients now. So that's not going to be an issue. Now, if you do get a charge back, the way to handle that is just, I don't even think we dealt with it. Like if we got one, we just would cancel the client's relationship and we wouldn't even fight the charge back. Maybe we would send like whatever. I didn't even think about it. Like if it happened, I didn't even know about it. Every now and then I look and I see one, but it was like once every few months. And this is when we were doing thousands of transactions. We definitely didn't get one in the first year or two. Okay. So I hope that answers your question, Jasmine. I want to, I want to treat it seriously, but I want to also make sure that you're aware that it's not going to be something that has a real impact on your business. Okay, Adam Pohl, what's up, man? I went to high school with this guy. How the new computer has it increased your productivity? Answer is yes. I got a bunch of stuff open. I'm moving the screen left and right. It's like literally lightning fast. And normally I'd have to shut Windows down in order to have a smooth video, at least on my end. And so this is perfect. I'm excited. So it's good. If you're thinking about it, get it. Okay, Jasmine asked, what do you think is better to start off with, outbound cold calling or the inbound receptionist? Okay, so if you have some call center experience, it's not bad to have some outbound cold calling clients. There's certainly some of our students that have started off that way. They were reaching out to people to try to get clients, and they found that the first person to bite was someone that wanted outbound. And if you're not focused too much on the telemarketing sales side in terms of the outbound cold calling, then it's not too difficult. If you're cold calling, it can be sort of difficult because now you've got all kinds of performance metrics that you have to pay attention to. And the happiness of the client is going to be based off of how well your agents perform. And your agents that you're hiring, I don't like to be in a situation where I'm hiring sales agents. Hey, Paul, thanks a lot for that. If you guys see it, if any of you have any questions, you can reach out to them. Well, here's some random person that shouldn't be in the chat. Let's see if I can block them. Hide user on this. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. So that random Russian person's messages will be hidden. Okay, that's the first. My channel's getting big enough to have random scammers. Love it. So outbound cold calling, it can be difficult because some of the agents that you hire just to be receptionists will not want to necessarily do cold calls and outbound. It's a lot more mentally draining. It's difficult to do day in, day out. But if you're just taking inbound calls and, doing stuff like, oh, what are your business hours? Answering the question, or, hey, can I talk to Mr. Jones, and you transferring the call? That's the type of thing that doesn't make anyone on the planet dread waking up in terms of the difficulty of the work or having to perform so well. They might not like the job because maybe it's not enough of a career situation for them. But in terms of dreading the difficulty of the job, that will happen with outbound cold callers. With some agents, that won't happen when it comes to simply, agents that are answering calls inbound, and you got some pretty decently simple clients. So do consider that. But again, some people start off with it because they want to get some revenue in, and I totally understand. Now, inbound receptionist, in the long term, you want to have that. That's an easier business model. It's a far less stressful sort of way of going about running a call center. And I think that it's easier to scale, it's easier to run, which makes it more enticing for investors. And, if you want to get acquired or something later, your multiple going to be better. You're going to get a better valuation when you have a business that's easier to run, right? And when your business is easier to run, it's also easier to replace yourself so that you don't have to work, as many hours as you did when you started and you're growing the company. So I hope that answers your question, Jack. Okay, so I started off late today, and I apologize. I had to set up. I literally just got this new computer yesterday. I've been waiting for it for almost a month, and so I decided to do a call on here at the last second, which meant downloading all kinds of stuff and getting it set. And I had to do this on whatever. So I started late, and I apologize. It won't happen again. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is I have to be off of here in 10 minutes. So any of you guys that have any further questions, make sure you ask. I have one other question that was written down before that I was going to answer, which is, how do you keep track of or trust remote workers? And I'll take a quick sip of water before I answer that. Okay. Yeah, so how do you, I'm going to timestamp this, 32 minutes. How do you trust or keep track of remote workers? Okay, so as some of you may or may not know, I built my company with all US-based people, where now I would do a hybrid. But when I built my company with all US-based people, but none of them were in an office. They were all remote, working from their homes. So we did technically have an office at one point, but there were never agents working out of that office. Okay. And so my company was fully remote. And, as we continued to grow, it always remained remote. And I was actually really surprised with how easy it was to continue to have literally everyone be remote while growing the company and, being efficient and productive. And, I'm actually not like a huge system person. There's some of the students that come through the tribe are a lot more systems oriented than I am. I do like to be organized, and I do like to, especially listen to agent feedback to make their lives easier, which doesn't require some types of system. But another scammer. I hope this doesn't pick up too much, but it is what it is. So let's remove this person. Okay. So when it comes to dealing with remote workers, in this specific industry, it's a lot easier than I thought it would be. And the reason for that, sorry, my throat is killing me. The reason for that is that when you're running this type of company, a call center, inevitably you're using a phone system. And the phone system software, especially if you're using one of the ones that I recommend, it's going to have robust reporting capability. And what that really means is that all of your workers that are dealing directly with your client, your phone answering agents, right, they're all being tracked extremely heavily by the phone software. And so the one that we use, and whoever just hopped in. Hello. Whoever we used, the one that we used allowed us to track literally everything. And I don't, I am not a micromanager, and we never micromanage. But we were in a position that if we wanted to be as granular as possible about people that might be slacking off or, like trying to take shortcuts on the job, it was easier to pinpoint. And I'll be more specific here, so it's not like I'm being vague. And this is going to be some real nugget of info here. When an agent takes a call at the end of the call, they categorize the call, and the email is sent to the client once the call ends. So a category of call might be, message taken, or a transferred call, or urgent, or solicitor, telemarketer, or like caller needs an answer, all kinds of different things, right? There's all kinds of different ways to categorize the call, and that goes in the subject line. And when a bunch of different agents are taking calls for a given group of clients, the percentages of each category of call that's selected should remain around the same for that group of agents. So it might be like 22% solicitors around there, right? Plus or minus 3%. Over the course of an entire month, where every agent is taking, hundreds of calls, maybe over 1,000 calls, right? It should average around the same for every single category of call that they're taking. And what we noticed is that every now and then there would be an agent that would select solicitor more often. And what that meant was that they didn't necessarily want to really figure out what the caller was calling about. They didn't ask any questions or try to determine it. Instead, they might take the call and, in the rarest but most egregious of circumstances, just hang up. So they'll pick it up and say, I'm sorry, it's a bad connection, and hang up. And then just mark it as a solicitor, or if they didn't even want to have to send information to our client, they would mark it as a dummy disposition, which meant nothing was sent. We didn't get anything of value, couldn't get a name, didn't even get a phone number, whatever. So if they dummy the call out, they don't have to do anything, and then they just wait for the next call. They didn't have to do any work on that call, including really talking to the person. So if someone has a dummy or solicitor disposition to categorize percentage that's significantly higher than the other agents in their group that taking the same call for the same client, then you know that there's something out of whack, because the numbers always make sense. The data always makes sense. And you don't make your conclusion based off of that alone, but every single call is recorded. So then you can say, oh, this looks sort of weird. This looks out of whack. And you can go start listening to the calls of that specific agent. And if you go through 50 calls, if someone is slacking off, if you go through 20 calls, you're going to know exactly how that agent is slacking off, in what way they're slacking off, and how that has, led to whatever metric or category is out of whack. And then you can make a determination based off of that. So it doesn't take all kinds of months of hounding the person or being over their shoulder. The data is there to pinpoint problem people very easily, and then you can root them out. And frankly, if you need to, you can fire them. And it's not some gray area where, we may consider, they'll know exactly why they're being fired. You'll be able to pinpoint it, and it's cut and dry. And that's ridiculously convenient. There's a lot of different industries where you don't get that luxury, frankly. You're having to let go of people that it can be ambiguous as to why they were let go, and then they're more likely to maybe fight it or be angry or upset because the justification wasn't clear enough for them being let go. So again, it's easy to spot egregious offenses when it comes to call center, and I think that's very helpful. Okay, so Jack and F, what do you think about the lead generation platform for getting clients such as Buzz? Oh, great. Jeff, and I'll answer that in just a second. The tribe call can have to start a little bit late today. Normally it starts in 2 minutes, but I'm going to answer the question. Um, okay, so, but again, in terms of trust, uh, because you have the ability to, through data, through your phone system software, really get a sense of who is doing their job and who isn't, then that's all you really need, right? You interview people and you hire them because you feel like they're going to be a decent fit for the job. If they show up and they do what they're supposed to do and people are happy and their data is in line with the other agents or even better, maybe, then there's no reason to ever fire them. There's no way that they can really do things that really hurt you unless they're like stealing, people's info. We haven't had that happen once, like literally not one time. Because once again, every single call that person takes is recorded, and every single time that they type something that sends off an email, everyone in the company knows who sent that. So there's no room, and they're certainly not taking our clients' information. Their agents are not the ones billing our clients, so they can't sabotage the company in that way. So there's no reason not to trust. And it's not something that's an aspect of our business that we have to worry about. And again, I think that's comes with a lot of peace of mind and a lot less trust. Like as you run a convenience store, you like have to budget in a certain percentage for theft, or a clothing store, there's theft. Doesn't happen in our industry. Okay. Jasmine, what do you think about the lead generation platform for getting clients such as Bark? I don't. It's not something I would ever use. I can't say bad things about it because I, just haven't really put real research into it. But frankly, I just, I think that where there are, I do think it's nice to have like agencies every now and then. Like, say you want to have an SEO agency or a content marketing agency or whatever, um, to sort of generate leads, or a digital marketing agency. That's good. I think that's good. But the lead generation platform, I tend to stay away from that stuff because it's not something that enables you to build the skill to actually build a real business. Maybe you can get a client here and there, but you're too beholden to something that you have absolutely no control over whatsoever. And because you don't have control over it, you're not gaining a skill. And if you don't gain a skill, then you're not going to build a large business. So you sort of have to, the best way, and I'm sure you understand it, but the best way to fight through certain problems is literally to run through it. You just have to face it head on and run right through it. And when it comes to marketing, that's absolutely, it's very unfortunate. Even I hate marketing, but it's something that we all have to learn. Okay, so Bill asked, just one more question: are break given to agents, and how would it work for 20 or 30 agents? Um, so yeah, I mean, breaks are pretty simple. What we typically do is, and some of our students are doing this. I think Paul started with the first part and then went to the second part, um, which is, and this isn't just call centers. This is, in the workforce. The typical shift, let's say it's a full time, it's actually a 9 hour shift. So, if somebody comes in at 8 a.m. and they're off at 5, you'll hear about 8 to 5 all the time. People say 9 to 5, but it's really 8 to 5. They'll come in at 8, they'll have an hour break for lunch, and then they're, off at 5. So the 1 hour for lunch is not paid, and they're there for 9 hours. What some people will do is, instead of doing an hour for lunch, they'll do a 30-minute lunch, especially because people are working from home. They don't have to like drive to whatever for lunch off site. They're at home. They could cook something. I don't know. What some people do is they'll do a half-hour lunch and then two 15-minute breaks at set intervals during the day. Okay. And the way in which to deal with like the bandwidth and fluctuation, it's just to schedule in a way so that everybody's on a set schedule and account for the break, and it makes it so that you still have covered. It's not that difficult. When you have 20 or 30 agents, really the group, in our case, it's groups of 4 to 6 agents, and then every group of 4 to 6 agents, that's their own unit, and then it's just multiple units. So, it doesn't have to be crazy because it's not crazy. All right, so Bill, if you're ready to join the tribe, awesome. Feel free to chat me. I know you've got me on Facebook, and I'll hook you up. But we're ready for you. I know your enthusiasm and your motivation there. So we're ready for you. Let's kill it. Other than that, Jeff, and I hope I answered that question. I know I didn't talk about Bark very much, but my philosophy on it is what I said earlier. But for those of you that came, a little later and you're here now, these are automatically recorded, so you'll be able to watch this. I absolutely will be here next week. Oh, Ahmed just as far as software, there are multiple softwares to use. Okay, really quickly, you'll need a phone system software. You'll need something to send off email between different people in your organization. We use Google Workspace. You'll need something to communicate with your people. You can either use, Hangouts within Google or Slack, which I recommend. You need something if you're like being sales heavy, maybe a CRM for keeping up with your sales cycle. We use something called Soft 360. And you might want to use email marketing software to send off announcements to all of your clients. We use MailChimp. So Ahmed, hope that answered that question. Okay, so Darren, I just check me out on Facebook. Let me link my profile. It's under Donald Span. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, some phone system, Ahmed. I do this every week, Darren. I try to do it every week. Chad, I cover different industries in the course. I wouldn't say there's any that need it the most. I seriously think that in terms of businesses that answer calls, within those industries, which is almost every industry, actually the free email course, I go over industries in one of those videos. And within those industries, there isn't any one. There's a crowd flow. The ones I would recommend are going to be like financial accounting services and such, CPA, legal, like solo attorneys and law firms, and local service businesses like cleaning companies, painting companies, HVAC, plumbing, that type of stuff. Ahmed, EVS 7. I've heard some decent things about it. I don't know. A few of our students signed up for it. One had a bad experience, but there were a few that were really excited about it. No one that I know of our students that have had success, meaning hitting at least 10,000 a month, are using EVS 7. But I do know that it has the features that are required to run this business. So, if you end up using it, feel free to let us know. The majority of phone system software vendors, they do charge per minute. It's usually pretty inexpensive, something like 2 cents per minute, something like that. It's not it is something that you'll think about, but it's definitely not going to be something if you run it if your business model is similar to how I teach it, you're not going to have an issue. It's not going to have an impact based off of how many minutes you're using. Bark Force, do you have a company yet for white labeling? Actually, a few of our students do it now. Vicky Virtual does it, so my old company does it. And then Paul, who just got off the call earlier, he does it. His company is 24hvirtual.com. And he's a student. He launched that company as a result of the course, and they have a bunch of agents now. and so they do white labeling. Just reach out to them directly for that. Jasmine asked, I'm trying to understand how to not service everyone, but you have a specific niche. So you can just choose a niche. What I tend to recommend is go for what you know, or just sort of pick one that you feel like makes sense and just roll with it. What some people do is they'll sort of reach out to every type of company, and then like the first couple clients that actually sign up and say yes, that's their niche, and they just roll with that for a while. We went with cleaning because at the time we were cleaning business owners, so we decided to start off serving different cleaning companies. But when we started getting incoming clients, people that were reaching out to us instead of us going outbound for it, that was all over the board. And the most frequent was attorneys. And so we started to position ourselves for attorneys. But I will say it is difficult to outbound and acquire attorney clients outbound unless you have a very specific approach. Take a look at Andy's interview for that. He has a decent amount of attorney client, and he talks about his method in that interview. Okay, so I really do have to go now, guys. It's 10 minutes into the Tribe Calls time. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I appreciate you guys being on here. So, I will be here next week. I try to do this every single week, but sometimes I miss it. Last week, we had Hawaii, so there was that. I feel like these are very helpful, so I'm going to continue doing them. I've been doing these, 90% of the time. I've been doing it for 2 years straight. So don't worry about me just suddenly stopping. I've been doing it for a long time now. They weren't on YouTube until just a few months ago. I was on a Facebook group. But I'm going to continue to do these, and they should be somewhere between 6 and 6:30 normally that I get started Central Time every Wednesday. So thanks a lot, and appreciate you guys being here, and I will definitely see you next week.